Well, welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead, y'all. We've been promising a raised bed tour. So today we're going to do that along with one or two other things. Guys, we appreciate you hanging in here with us at the Piney Woods Homestead. We've got some exciting stuff coming, at least to us anyways, and we hope it will be to y'all. What do you think about this beautiful weather?
Finally, sunshine. For the first time in...
like a week.
Yeah, in 5 days. For the first time in 5 days.
Y'all, we've had quite a bit of rain here over the past few days, but it's been really good for the garden, in-ground garden, and what's going in the raised beds. We're going to take you around and show you that stuff, guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Hit that old like and subscribe if you haven't, and if you have, as always, guys, we appreciate you.
The first raised bed you saw back late February, I planted this whole bed with candy onions. And they have taken such a beating. We have had so many heavy downpours, so much heavy winds, but they've got, some of them are good, some of them are not fantastic, but they're all going to eat. And it's a great variety. We actually had one last night with supper. But you can see, you can get down here, they've got about another 2 weeks before they'll be coming out. But I didn't honestly think that any of them were going to bulb because they got blew down so much and beat down so much with the rains. So I'm happy with what I am getting. I do not trim my tops. Some people say to do it, some people say don't. Dixondale Farms, who's been in business I think for 100 and some years, which is where I get my onions from, say don't. So I don't. And here comes the wind again. These two beds were our potatoes. This bed was our Yukon Gold. This one, our russets. And you can tell they have taken a good beating from the heavy rains and winds too. They kind of stand back up once they get bent over. But they're getting close to maturity. I think we've got about another 3 weeks maybe on these. But we've already got some really nice Yukons in here.
Oh my, I haven't seen those yet.
Yeah.
I'm ready to eat them.
Yeah. And those will be our canning potatoes because they can fabulously. So I'm excited, but I'm ready to get the potatoes out. I love growing them, but they take so incredibly long and they occupy my space. So I'm ready for them to be done and get out of here. And like I said, this bed, especially these, are almost done. You can see they're starting to die back and yellow. But one reason this shows why we top dressed back in the video that we did, basically healing, but in a raised bed. Because if not, these potatoes would have been exposed to the sunlight. You'd end up with green potatoes. And I do come through here and just kind of keep an eye and make sure, but because we top dress with it, I've never seen any exposed. I just found those because
you were digging and you wanted to see them.
I was digging around to see how they were looking. So.
And your favorite thing in the garden is what?
My most favorite thing is digging the potatoes out because I get my hands in the dirt and I get to just really reach down in there and
find prize.
Find all of them. Yeah, it's like, because you never know what you're going to get because they're underground. So. And this back bed stays with the same throughout the year. We planted these strawberries in here last spring and they really put off good this year, but they're finally just about done. There's 1 or 2 left, but the heavy rains that we've had the past few days, the few that were in here that were ripening were extremely watery. So I think I got actually for the most part, the last few out of here.
And these strawberries came from
my father-in-law.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what do you know the variety? I can't remember.
Was it Chandler?
It might be Chandler.
I can't remember, but they've done really well, and they were just little pieces last spring when I put them in here. And so this bed is pretty much tied up.
All
forever.
The time.
Yeah.
And I picked several the other morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just didn't make it into the house.
Okay. And in the back bed, we have Blue Lake bush beans. And they have this bed from the compost, beans don't need high nitrogen. They actually help to set nitrogen into the soil. But we filled this bed, topped it off with compost, which was high in nitrogen, and you could tell because as they grew, let's see, find some of the younger leaves. They had the nitrogen burn on the leaves. And they generally do this every time we plant, because we generally plant beans in this bed the first round in the spring. And they always do this, but then you can see they grow out of it.
Chicken litter's hot, even if it is a year old, it's hot.
Yeah. Well, not so much that it's hot, it's just high in nitrogen. So.
Right. But they look great.
Yeah. Yep.
And Kyla planted all these beans, so she should be happy that her beans are growing. I'll be happy when we pick them.
Yeah. And if you watched our first garden tour of the in-ground, you saw that I was succession planting a lot of squash and a lot of zucchini, and I did succession already sow the squash. The zucchini I did up here, and we grew it in this bed last year, so I know 4 is not too many on each side. And I've got half of it in the Black Beauty zucchini, the heirloom, and then this half is a golden hybrid zucchini. And they're finally starting to take on off now that we're getting a day or two of warm weather so far. That one's split from all the rain that we've had.
What is it?
It's a firecracker radish, I think is the variety. But this bed was all 2 different varieties of lettuce, the Cherokee and the Butter Crunch. And then down the middle, I sowed radish seeds, as well as, which they've kind of gotten shaded, but in between each lettuce, I put bunchen onion seeds. So they're ready for a little bit more room. Y'all, I have came down here countless times, and I harvest the outer leaves and then let it keep growing. And they still, we can't eat enough to keep up with it. So I have started pulling some whole heads, mainly because this Butter Crunch is going to bolt as it warms up. The Cherokee, there's a ladybug.
That's a real ladybug
Yeah.
too, not one of those Chinese ones.
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think it is anyway.
No, it is. It's a good one. And the Cherokee, it is more heat tolerant, but they're going to need to come out of here too very soon for a specific reason. But you can see that my radishes, they also acted as a trap crop for the whiteflies and the aphids. They ate the leaves of the radishes.
Yeah, you can see the holes in
Yeah,
them.
but it didn't affect the radishes, but that prevented them from just really being all over the lettuce and destroying it. So this has been, we haven't even put organic spray on this whatsoever because the radishes have helped with that. And this bed I sowed at the same time I did between the lettuces more bunchen onions, and you can tell they're a lot bigger because they're getting a lot more sun than what the ones between the lettuces are. And then down the middle I have sown a heat tolerant lettuce variety. I actually sowed it several weeks ago and the birds stole them, which they normally don't do, but they did, so I've got them re-sown again, and as I start to see them come up, I'm going to put some bird netting over it so that they don't steal the next round. And this bed is still somewhat empty, but on both sides of the trellis here, I have Tasty Bites melons, which is a small personal sized cantaloupe. We grew them last year and we love them. They're growing slow right now because we have had such cool weather. We're nowhere near, for the whole entire month, we've been nowhere near what we should have been. But they're finally starting to take off, and they'll end up climbing both ways. But I've got them on this side as well. I've got 3 on each side.
And they are excellent,
They
especially
really are good.
frozen. Eat them all winter long.
Yeah, I froze it quite a bit last year, and we just pull it out and kind of let it thaw just a little and have it with our breakfast a lot. And then I've got basil on the front, which something is enjoying, but that's fine. I kind of, as usual, got a little carried away with my basil. I have it here, I have it in the bed behind the house, and then I had a patch in the in-ground garden as well. But this bed is going to hold some more fun things. I'll probably get them in here in another week or so. So that's why this is empty this year. And this is not normally we don't normally have empty space in the raised beds this time of year. But we're working on something that I'm pretty excited about, I'm nervous about, but I'm excited about. So that's why we do still have some empty space here and there. And there's already plans for as soon as I can get those potatoes out too.
Y'all, right here we have a 20 by 20 plot of candy corn. It's a yellow sweet corn, and if you've never had candy corn, you're missing out. If you'll grow it one season and have a successful crop, you'll probably never grow another yellow corn variety. It's just that good. But Kyla planted this corn. We need to thin a little bit. If you notice, we've got a couple of stalks growing together here and there. There's not a whole lot to thin, but we will thin it some. I healed it up with our Hoss wheel hoe right before we had this last storm. We had 3 or 4 days of good rain, good soaking rain. Fertilized with some triple 13 and healed it. So now that it's warming up, it should pop, and we should have some knee-high by the 4th of July corn out here. Probably more than knee-high by then, I would think, but we'll just have to wait and see. But keep it healed, keep it fertilized good, keep it in plenty of water, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high, as I say, we should have a good corn crop. We love sweet corn. I love eating it straight out of the garden, just peeling it back and eating it right there. But candy corn is a great thing to grow, but just make sure if you're going to grow corn and you never have, put it where you can fertilize it easily, but water it easily every day, because we don't always get just the right amount of rain on corn. You probably need at least an inch of rain a week on it. So we've got a sprinkler set up, a little $16 sprinkler that we put on a T-post, and we overhead water it because that's what we have. We don't have any drip or nothing like that, but it works, y'all. But the corn is looking beautiful. It's nice and green. Once it gets up a little bit higher, we'll fertilize again. And what I'm looking for is I want to be able to basically turn the tip of that corn brown right there. That means that I'm getting enough nitrogen to make this plant grow really well. So that's the plan on that. And at the very end, you can't really see it, but we've got some Star David okra up about this big, and Lisa's going to show you another little plot over here with some okra. But we've kind of alluded to what's going into these raised beds because we've got something that we're planting this year. It's exciting to us, and as Lisa said, it's a little scary too because it's a new adventure, but we'll fill you in more on that as time goes on.
And in this bed we have 2 short rows of the Star of David okra. We have the Clemson spineless and the red burgundy in the in-ground garden, and 3 rows of it. But we love the Star of David okra. It's an heirloom, and y'all, if you love fried okra and you want an okra that actually does not shrink away and keeps its size and its shape once it's fried, then you really have to try this. And it's very, very prolific, so we hopefully will get a good bit out of here. And now I think we have to take care of the Ranger chickens, don't we?
Yep.
Okay.
That's next on the list. So y'all, our Ranger chickens are exactly 3 weeks old today. And it's time to take another feeder in and get it hung. And we're going to show you these birds. They've been out here for about a week. When we brought them out, all of a sudden a low pressure front came through. It got cold, windy, and rainy. So we had to do a few things. We put some, I took them down as of yesterday morning. We hung some tarps up. You know, our plan eventually is to put curtains up so that we can monitor temperature and drafts inside of this chicken house. But for now, what we did was we put tarps up and we kept them warm with some heat lamps. But y'all, they got their feathers like overnight. By 3 weeks old, your Ranger chickens will have all of their feathers and you won't need any kind of heat source whatsoever. We'll go in there, we'll get this feeder hung, let you have a closer look at these birds. All right, y'all, I'm trying not to hit my head.
We didn't have enough pool noodles, because you can see we
No, not enough pool noodles. But we do have enough baling twine, thanks to wheat straw from Southern States, our local co-op. Well, we're going to go ahead and hang another feeder, y'all, because it's time. It's time to get them another feeder up, because these birds are growing. Y'all, they grow really fast. And you'll read, if you are researching how to raise meat birds, you'll hear people say, take the feed away at night, only let them have feed for 12 hours, things like that. Well, that is if you are raising probably a Cornish cross. These Ranger chickens are much stronger than Cornish cross birds. They're not Frankenstein chickens. They are crossed up. It's a French and American breed of chicken. A lot of folks will tell you it is not an heirloom. What do you call it?
A heritage breed.
A heritage breed. It's closer to a heritage breed than a Cornish cross, but it's not truly a heritage breed, y'all. It's a hybrid. But there's a whole lot less chicken gene editing going on to get this bird
to where they won't grow at such a fast rate that they can't support their body weight,
right,
or that they have a heart attack.
We rarely lose birds with these Rangers, and we've been growing them now for, I think this is our 5th year growing these Rangers. We usually lose 1 or 2 at the most. And we lost one the other morning, and it was because it was chilly. They had huddled up, and I believe one got smothered. And we had a heat lamp in, or 2 heat lamps in, really. But it just happens, y'all. You're going to lose at least 1. We have raised birds before, but we hadn't lost any. The only issues we've ever really ran into with Rangers is sometimes their gizzards get twisted up. That's the only way I know to describe it. And you'll notice their gizzards getting huge on them. They're not converting the feed. It's not getting into them, and they're not growing out and putting weight on.
But we've only had that happen.
Like with
it was 1 flock, and it was 2. I think
2 birds.
Yeah, 2 birds in that flock.
We've raised Rangers before and had 0 mortality. They're just an excellent bird, y'all. But you keep the feed out 24/7 for them. Don't ever let them run out of feed. Make sure they have fresh water every single day, and this bird will surprise you. And last fall, we grew them in confinement like we're doing right now. And we were able to get them up to weight a full half a week to a week.
I think it was a week.
It was a week. Yeah, it was a week sooner than raising them on grass. Nothing wrong with raising them on grass, y'all. We like that too. It's just that we found it simpler. We're not trying to grow soil for pasture, because we don't have pasture animals. When I'm talking about beef, we don't have beef. We don't have goats. We don't have stuff like that. We have pigs. We have chickens. We're trying to grow pigs, chickens, and vegetables. And this method suits us better because as we add to the litter in here, as they grow, as they soil it, as we build the litter base up, we'll end up with a material that we can put in the compost and raise vegetables on it the next year. And this eco-friendly compost we're using is a mixture of hardwoods, probably pine as well. Plus we use pine shavings, but we use big shavings on biddies because we have found over the years that if you try to use sawdust off a sawmill, they'll ingest it, it'll kill them. It'll choke them.
Or even the really fine shavings.
Yeah, really fine shavings. Stay away from really fine shavings. Feel free to use something like that on an adult flock breeders. They're not going to ingest it, at least in our experience they're not, because we use them for our Sussex. But use the big flakes. But we'll get you some up close looks at them here of what a bird looks like. I'll see if I can pick one up at 3 weeks old. They're nice and plump, y'all. Alright, calm down. Calm down. Alright, this gives you a look at a ranger at 3 weeks old. Notice he's got 99% of his feathers. And y'all, they are growing fast. They eat a lot of feed, but they convert it very well to muscle, which is what you're looking for. And in a total of 8 to 8.5 weeks, we'll have an average carcass weight at processing of 5 pounds. That's our experience, and that is with, I can't remember, I've got notes written down as far as feed conversion if you want to know how many pounds of feed it takes to raise one out. And I'm wanting to say rule of thumb, it's around 15 pounds of feed to a 5 pound carcass weight bird. It may be a little less, but we've noticed it, and it'll put him down. Go back to your buddies. But in confinement like this, they put on weight quicker because they're not stressed from the moves, because believe it or not, it does stress them to move. Those birds will go bananas when you're moving them. Plus, you run over some of them. It's almost impossible to move them without injuring a bird. And that's from several years of dragging them around on grass. Nothing wrong with it though, y'all. It's good for them to get grass. When we mow the yard, we throw grass in here and they get some grass that way too. Any bugs that we catch out in the yard when we're doing yard work, we throw them in, they get those. And you'll be surprised, I have watched these chickens, even at 2 and 3 weeks old, catch a fly in midair. It's like chicken Miyagi. Wasn't it Miyagi from Karate Kid? They just pick it just like that. So y'all are very efficient at eating everything that's in front of them to make them gain weight. All right. Y'all, the birds are looking excellent. They're exactly where we expect them to be at 3 weeks. And if you're curious, there's 135 square feet of floor space in here for 50 birds. That, if you do the math, that's 2.7 square feet per bird. And university studies, that's what we use, y'all. When we're raising livestock, growing vegetables, we tend to read university studies from all across the country. That way we can garner knowledge based off of actual trials to implement on our little small farm here. And not just the knowledge of parents that have lived this way, but university studies. And I read one earlier today, I believe it was from Penn State, maybe from 2017, I can't remember. If I can find it, I'll put a link to it in the description. But maybe it was Purdue University, I can't remember. But anyways, they recommend 2.5 square feet per broiler in a commercial chicken house. Well, there's 2.7 here, so that's right along with their study. I've seen studies that say 1 square foot to 1.5 square foot per bird. And in our opinion, that's just too tight. So we're going to see how this does with 50 birds this year. If we feel like it's too much of a litter load, then we'll reduce the number of birds to 40 and try that. But we have ultimate goals to build a larger structure as time goes on. Y'all, just takes time, takes money, takes time. Guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us at the Piney Woods Homestead. We took you on an in-depth tour of the raised beds. Showed you the Ranger chickens, kind of explained to you why we do the things that we do. And y'all, it's different for everybody. We always say it's America. Do it the way you want to do it. If you want to raise them on grass, raise them on grass. We like that too, y'all. But as we get older, we've chosen this. And why are some reasons we've chosen to do it this way, you reckon?
Well, it's, for us, dragging it on grass, one, we have limited grass.
Yeah, we do.
To do it on. And, you know, it is stressful for the birds and for me, because I'm usually the one in there. You know, our coop is big enough for me to get in there with them. I'm usually the one in there trying to keep them from getting run over.
Yeah.
There was more reasons.
Well, they put more weight on quicker.
They do put more weight on. And when we drag them on grass, if it's rained
for
wet. 5 days, like we just had,
hard to drag them.
We could not drag them. And they're staying in that same spot that they've been in
the poop.
That should have been, you know, they should have been moved the next day, and they're stuck at a standstill, and you can't move them on to wet grass.
And you always say that because of experience. When we've moved them on wet grass before, we have noticed health problems which resulted in death.
It's just not good for them to move them onto
wet grass.
Wet, damp grass.
It just isn't. It's poultry. It's they can be finicky, but we have chosen the method that we're using because it works for us. You got to figure out what works for you guys.
And you have to understand too, even those, you know, anyone who drags on grass, they still have to have a feed.
Drags on grass.
Drags on grass.
Don't take that the wrong way, y'all. Some of you, maybe you've drug on grass before. We haven't, other than chickens.
You just completely messed me up. Anyone that raises on grass, chickens can't just grow on grass alone.
No.
They have to have a grain.
Kind of like man can't live on bread alone.
Exactly.
They got to have grain, y'all. We use nutrient feeds because we have found, and y'all, sitting our first rodeo, we've tried different stuff over the years, and consistently, we're not sponsored by nutrient feeds. It'd be great if we were.
We're here.
But we have found that we put more weight on birds quicker with less health issues with nutrient feed. An all plant-based diet, 22% protein. It just has worked great for us. Guys, that's enough rambling and enough sarcasm. Y'all, I'm full of it sometimes, but I'm not as full of it as a Christmas turkey, if you've ever heard that one before. But sometimes I'm a little full of it. You got to throttle me back, guys. Y'all have a good day, a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Good Lord willing.
And the creek don't rise too high.
That's right, guys. Y'all have a good week.